let's show you visuals of what happened yesterday in Lagos. Yes, I know this is probably something you hear about in Lagos a lot, but yesterday's one was quite tricky. If we could just show you this particular fire, there you see. Now, this happened around 7 p.m. yesterday, yes, around 7 p.m., 7:10 p.m. And there you see emergency responders. So a tanker actually fell over and caught fire. And I'm telling you, this burned for hours on the Long Bridge. If you know Lagos well, you know the Long Bridge, the outward Lagos part was where this happened. And I was actually driving past this whole fire when it started. And believe me, it caused a lot of chaos. People were not sure what to do, whether to turn back, whether to drive through. But eventually, this whole outward Lagos route was cordoned off. It was blocked. So people couldn't go out of Lagos through this route. And you know what happens? Immediately, people started switching lanes. So you had the route that was coming into Lagos on the Long Bridge. You had the people going outside and into Lagos on the same lane. And, you know, that was a major source of chaos. So this happened yesterday. Fast forward to this morning, and the whole place is blocked. Yes, a lot of people are wondering. I mean, this happened yesterday. Things should have been done, but we know that things get quite tricky, definitely. Now, this thing burnt for so long, it must have affected the roads. There you see emergency responders, firefighters actually battling that fire. I tell you, it was a major one. It was a major one. It was really scary at some point, but thankfully they eventually put out the fire. And honestly, we have to give kudos to the fire service. I mean, they had to move close to the fire and get it sorted out. So honestly, kudos to them. But at this point, the aftermath is what we're dealing with in Lagos. So people coming into Lagos, people going outside of Lagos are literally stuck on the road this morning. This is something you hear a lot, definitely, from Lagos. But again, it's something we have to contend with. And I'm not sure how long it's going to take for the authorities to get this sorted out. But that's what we have this morning, which is why I'm flying solo for now. Markwe?
You know, just yesterday evening, I saw this tweet from Dr. Joe Abba. He says he was comparing being on Twitter with living in Lagos. And he says being on Twitter is like living in Lagos. While you live there, you can't imagine living anywhere else. But once you leave, you can't imagine how sane people are able to live there. Good to visit when you want a bit of excitement and madness, but not to live in permanently. And I couldn't agree more with that tweet. It's such a terrible situation, what we're seeing. I mean, that tanker obviously must have been coming from perhaps a Papa, fully loaded, because for the fire to have taken that long to put out, it meant that the content, I mean, the tanker must have been fully loaded. The chances are that it was actually, the destination, of course, would be outside of Lagos, and maybe the products were expected somewhere, but sadly, it didn't make it. And then, you know, I think there'll be a lot to be thankful for, that there was no explosion, because the chances are also very high. Perhaps that's why you see the cautiousness of the first responders there, trying to ensure that, prayerfully it would not explode. But I think that this is it reflects our failure on so many levels. The fact that, we cannot trust our pipelines to deliver products to places safely and efficiently, that we have to load them onto tanks like this and put them on the road. People always say these are moving explosives on our roads, and it's a danger. It's a miracle that we're not seeing cars around that particular tanker being engulfed in the flames as well. So I think that on many levels, there are things to be thankful for, but we know that this is not sustainable. We cannot continue like this. And this accident happened on a bridge, which means that people are not able to shunt. They're not able to quickly create a path in the bush or somewhere and quickly find their way. There is only one long bridge, and that bridge is really long, and you have to take the bridge. Even if you find a bush path, at some point you have to come on the bridge to be able to cross, I think, a swampy area. So it is really sad to see what has happened here, but again, Kayode, it is a sad reflection of where we currently are in terms of infrastructure in our country, and even how that tanker now, which has, you know, taken all night, the fire on that tanker has taken all night to put out, has even endangered the fragile infrastructure which we have there, because that bridge, they'll have to check it now to see whether the fire has done any damage, any substantial damage that could affect it on the long run, because, you know, heat and the substances used to build up that bridge do not really go together. It's not that sort of intense heat. But let us see how far this goes. This all ties into, you know, part of the things that Nigerians complain of. Today, a lot of Christians, today is Ash Wednesday, yeah, by the way. A lot of Christians, especially in the Catholic Church, are going to be wearing black today as a symbol of their dissatisfaction with where things currently are in the country, especially with regards to security. And things like this usually tie into security, because we cannot secure the pipelines. It's one of the reasons why we have to put tankers like this on the road and, you know, constantly on a daily basis endanger the lives of our people. Which year are we going to get things right? Big questions to be asked, Kayode. And when you see that man hours are going to be lost today, 2 of our colleagues are not able to get here on time, not for any fault of theirs, but because of the chaos and the madness. I can only imagine the frustration a lot of motorists will be going through. Yes, sometimes for fault of theirs, because in some instances people are not patient and would not obey traffic wardens, but in some other instances it's no fault of theirs. They know if they do not do what it is that they see other people do, they're most likely going to spend all day there. So I will charge the traffic controllers, the FRSC, whom we believe will be on the ground by now, not to give up, not to relent. They should be taking full charge of the situation and ensure that the frustration that people see, because oftentimes when you see traffic officials, what it does for you is that it reassures you that there is somebody in control of the traffic and this mess will be sorted soon. But when you don't see anybody, when there is nobody on the ground, especially shortly after this has happened, this is what you see: the madness, the chaos, the frustration that immediately follow. People are unsure and everybody is just, you know, doing what it is that they can just because they want to get out. I'm hoping that this is sorted on time enough for Chimlin and Ayo to get to work on time.
Definitely.
At least.
And, you know, this ties into the talk about security, which you brought in. I mean, this is perhaps what also led a lot of regions to start considering, you know what, we need to sort security for ourselves. And, you know, you know what that has brought up, the Amotekun talk for the Southeast and other regions who are also thinking about it. And just goes to show you that when it appears as though those in authority don't seem to have a grasp on things, people will definitely look for alternatives. And as you mentioned, today being Ash Wednesday and a lot of Christians going to wear black just to symbolize the fact that they're not happy with the security situation in the country. I recall it was on Monday that Borno State also declared fasting and praying for security, and it just shows you how much of a work, or how much of a job we have on our hands when it comes to security in the country. And if we could leave Lagos for a bit, let's go over to the nation's capital, Abuja, where a lawmaker actually threatened to resign over the insecurity situation in the country. It just shows you how much he has perhaps had it up to this point, a Borno State lawmaker, and he's someone who has spoken about insecurity in recent times. And you know what has happened in Borno State over the years. Just a few weeks ago also we had another major attack where the president visited right after that. So this lawmaker says, you know what, I'm getting tired. Maybe I should resign. And you begin to wonder if those that are representing the people seem to be tired, seem to be giving up. What do you expect the people to do? I would advise him not to definitely resign, perhaps stay in there and ensure that things work. But it just paints a picture of where we stand right now. The president has given out statements from time to time saying that, you know, the bandits and the terrorists will be dealt with. But you know, you come to the streets and you see what still happens per time. If it's not the non-state actors, you have the state actors. You have the police. Recall the issue in Shagamu recently. So it seems we have these different issues on all fronts. And it's good, you know, that people are actually speaking up and holding government to account. But if you could just take a listen to what the lawmaker said on the floor of the House yesterday.
An issue of Supercam on the floor of this house, that soldiers created Supercam deliberately to shield themselves against Boko Haram insurgents and other related attacks, thereby exposing innocent citizens to various forms of attack in the country. I said it, they remain in the same location, round themselves with a ditch or a trench, waiting for Boko Haram to come so that they can repel them. For how long shall we be repelling attack in this country? Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, if care is not taken, some of us can even resign on this hollow chamber, because I will not be comfortable. While I represent my people, they voted for me under duress, I can say. Duress in the sense that Boko Haram will be sending messages that they will attack polling station. But these people took the horns by it, took the bull by its horns and voted for us to be here. So I see no reason why I should be comfortable here while my constituents are dying, my constituents are being wasted away by insurgents that are more or less avoidable.
All right, you're welcome back. Now let's take a look at the front pages this morning and see how they reflect what's been happening in the country, especially yesterday. We begin with the Guardian newspaper and take a look at the big story. Resign now, reps tell service chiefs, NSA. Well, that's it. That's the big story, and this is something we've heard from time to time, and you begin to wonder what is different this time around. But there you have it. Resign now, reps tell service chiefs, NSA, and you recall the rep who threatened to resign. Well, just we'll see how we can make a sense of all that story. It starts on the front page and continues right inside the newspaper. But see this other story just right beside the big picture. Court sentences Metu to 7 years in prison. So this story trended for most of yesterday, different angles to that story. And the court, the Federal High Court in Abuja, eventually decided. It was quite long. I mean, it had people staying glued to their TV sets, and Channels Television kept giving an update of that. And this is what comes out of it. Court sentences Metu to 7 years in prison. Definitely the conversation is not over, especially because there are other cases in court that we are keeping tabs on. So this is finality, maybe. But that's the Guardian newspaper this morning.
Take a look at Vanguard for you. You see there, insecurity. Gunmen go on rampage nationwide. That's the lead story on the front page of the Vanguard. Delta community attacked. Man killed. Wife abducted. Daughter injured. Gang sack Benue community as cult war claims pharmacist. 4 others. Gunmen kidnap another victim at Onicholono. Demand 15 million naira ransom. Cultists invade Delta Police formation. 7 arrested. IGP disbands zonal intervention squad in Ogun over footballers killing. We won't tolerate killings from police. That's from the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Gbajabia Mila. They have all of those stories for you lumped under the big headline, insecurity, gunmen go on rampage nationwide. It's on page 5. You'll find other stories here. U.S. interfaith leaders declare Nigeria ticking time bomb. It's on page 9. Oshomole EPM plotting sponsored protests. Edo government alleges a bit of politics there. They also have the story, court jails Olisa Metu 39 years for money laundering to pay federal government 375 million naira. Other stories you see there. We deserve SUVs, not cars, for oversight functions, as according to reps. In one breath, you see some reps, members of the House of Reps speaking, well, I don't know. You make of it what you will. Page 35 will give you details. NLC, Sarah Afenifere, others kick as reps propose immunity for NAS State Assembly's principal officers. It's on page 10 of the paper. If you flip to the back page, they have other stories here. Wilder sack strainer, who threw in the towel? For real? Well, I don't know. To face Fury in trilogy fight, you see the stories on the back page. Tokyo 2020 Dare Hills Taekwondo qualifier, and Fatai Amu Lords MPFL backs Enyimba for league title. Let's leave it there for Vanguard and Vanguard Sports. And if we look quickly now at Blueprint newspapers, for 400 million naira fraud, Metu joins Dariye Nyame Kalu in jail. Forfeits 375 million naira to federal government, bags 7-year sentence. So you wonder why it's captured as 39 years. That's because a lot of the sentences are going to be running concurrently. So all of the sentence together, at the end of the day, how long he's going to spend if he doesn't go on appeal is about 7 years. You see there, kudos knocks as council set for appeal. We're still probing Jonathan's campaign donations. That's according to the EFCC. Other stories you see there, 1,000 displaced in renewed Benue-Ebonyi communal clashes. 5 killed in Ubokolo cult rivalry. That story is also there as well. Just beneath the nameplate, don't bill unmetered customers. NERC orders discos. And the AEDC, that's the Abuja Electricity Distribution Company, mulls 43 billion naira investment for improved power. Oluwo accepts Osun Council of Oba's suspension. Yeah, we're fighting Oba. And we'll leave it there for Blueprint newspapers.
So let's turn our attention to Daily Trust and show you what the big story is. There you have it. Nigerians reject immunity for Senate President, Speaker, others. Says it is self-serving, and proposal triggers calls for removal of immunity for President, governors. So you see that conversation is getting wider, and we'll see how that plays out, especially the part that, you know, this triggered the call for removal of immunity for President and governors. Definitely, this is not the end of this. And you see the picture, the pictures of the principal officers in the National Assembly, just to give some, you know, some bite to that story. Right on top of a big story, police brutality threatens our nationhood. That's coming from the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Gbajabiamila. And Buba Galadima kicks as AMCON takes over company home. This got a lot of people talking yesterday on Twitter. You can go over there and find out what they're saying. More stories on the front page of a Daily Trust. Kano bans street begging, vows to take erring parents to court. I recall just days ago that conversation came up again, saying, you know what, how about you punish the parents who put these children on the streets? You see now, street begging has been banned. You know, so there's some people that will always have dissenting views to this particular one there, but that's what the state government is saying. Let's ban this for now and see what happens. And this is as well as other stories on the front page of a Daily Trust this morning.
And then we'll take a look at New Telegraph for you. Reps, okay, immunity for Senate President, speakers. Well, maybe not quite, but because that's what we'll be sinking our teeth into. What we know is that it's a skilled second reading, so maybe that's why it's been interpreted like this. Reps okay immunity for Senate President, speakers. I think that's why a lot of people are alarmed. Presiding officers to be exempted from criminal prosecution. Sarap lawyers flay proposal. It's on page 2 of the paper. Judge to Metu, why you must spend 7 years in jail. Ex-PDP spokesperson to pay 375 million to federal government, loses company. And you see just on top of the nameplate, NERC outlaws crazy billing, places ceiling on discos. Nigerians kick against tariff hike at public hearings. There was one which held here in Abuja yesterday. Sad to say I couldn't make it, but hey, these are some of the discussions that are coming out. Tax evasion. Tribunal orders firm to pay 1.7 billion naira to FIRS. Yes, you evade tax, you pay the fine. ICRC, federal government attracts $8 billion into economy through PPPs. 900 million naira debt. AMCON takes over Buba Galadima's home. houses, firms. That's what it says, houses and firms. And Kano bans street begging, erring parents to face legal action. I think that one will be an interesting one to see how it is implemented. When you ban street begging and you ban our Almajiris from the street and you want them to go to school, you arrest the people who wouldn't go. We'll see how that will be implemented in Kano. Well, let's leave it there for New Telegraph. And if we look quickly for you at Leadership this morning, they have the lead headline, Court jails Olisametu 7 years over 400 million naira fraud. Resumes trial of Fani Kayode Nanadi Usman over alleged 4.6 billion naira graft. It's on page 4. Senate President speakers to get immunity as reps pass bill. That is also on the front page of Leadership this morning. Taraba Assembly absolves Ishaku of absenteeism. Yeah, there's been controversy over the governor of Taraba State being in Abuja than in Taraba. Kano bans Almajiri from street begging. Other stories here. Nasir Udano threatens online newspaper with 4 billion naira libel suit. Iranian deputy health minister tests positive to coronavirus. That also happened. That broke yesterday as well. We're making giant strides against insurgents. That's according to the army. So the question is, why then the hue and cry and the constant attacks that you keep seeing in the northeast? But the army says they're making giant strides. Page 6 will give you the details. Ex-Egyptian President Mubarak dies at 91. They also have that story for you on page 42 of Leadership newspapers. That's where we leave it for the paper.